Right now, in Kitsap County, we have 647 homeless citizens. This number has been steadily rising for the past 3 years. Now is the time to ask yourself, how can I help?
I was a person who never expected that I personally could ever become homeless because I always was successful. When I became homeless, I had made some, I could have taken other steps. I say I shouldn't. I could have taken other steps maybe along the line that maybe would not have happened, that I ended up homeless. But when I did, frightened, alone, not knowing about the future, suicidal, looking for a way out of this terrible darkness. And so that's how I first felt. Somehow I kept going. Even though I had sort of given up on myself and had no hope of any kind for a future. But homeless people are just people. The only difference between voila, the homeless man, or the man that has a home, is just the hat, But we're frightened of that homeless person much more than we say we're frightened of the guy who's driving along the highway who is on his way home. But on his way home, that man who could be an alcoholic has got car keys. He's driving, and he could end our life. This homeless man, he's just trying to survive. That's all. Survive. There's no reason to be afraid of that man. The first reaction often for people that when they get into, quote, homelessness is to, quote, shrink away, get away from people. Sometimes they're ashamed. Sometimes they're what I often call frozen. They don't have answers. They can't do the things that they had normally done for the first 20, 30, 40 years of their life. Now they're frozen in time, and that was me. I reached out, first of all, by going to the Salvation Army for breakfast. That was my first time that, and it's much detailed in my book, but it was the first time that I actually looked at homeless people. It was the first time that I looked at myself as a homeless person, and I had breakfast at the Salvation Army. The day after, I tried to take my life by jumping off the Caramo-Narrows Bridge. So in this process of reaching out, the resources that were there were very well known by the homeless people. And they led me to the food, at the Lutheran church and the Methodist church and the meals that were available. And at that time there weren't half as many as there are now. But food. And at those tables, those wonderful tables in those churches where we would eat, I began the process of understanding that those plates of food were also plates of hope. People cared about me enough to make me some food and bring it to me and say, here you are. So food was the first thing. That should never stop. That should always be available because even when we get, quote, the most of our homeless people off the street, because of great community events, it puts in place this wonderful feeling of people caring about others. The issue with a lot of our judgment of people often clouds and darkens our own spirit, the desire to do the things that are deep within us that we want to do. There isn't a person who doesn't want to help a person. It's true. That's my belief. I believe in the good of mankind. Faced with the issue, because of a homeless man or a homeless woman in Pioneer Square or downtown Silverdale or downtown Bremerton that is there and asking you for money, and you're looking at that person, and right away your judgments enter. What is that man going to do with this $1 I give him or $5 I give him? Yes, a person could take that $5 you give them and use that money unwisely for their circumstance. But who knows? There is that miracle can happen with that $5 that you gave at the right time, to the right place, to the right person, that it can really help them a lot. It did me.
Well, over the next year, I'd really love to see us put some affordable housing on the ground. And it comes in a lot of different forms, but basically the problem we have so many people homeless today is that there just isn't enough affordable housing. So whether it's tiny houses, boarding houses, whether it's any kind of decent, livable, affordable space, which is going to be real tough. We need lots of partnerships to make sure that we put living spaces that are available to people who need them on the ground. Well, today we're working actually with a lot of different agencies. I meet monthly with a group that we loosely call ourselves the Homeless Housing Coordinating Committee. It's made up of about, there are 25 plus organizations that are represented at these monthly meetings. But the basic membership or attendees come from the Continuum of Care, which is a long-standing organization, loose organization in Kitsap County, made up of more than 50 organizations, agencies that do community service and do specifically look at the question of homelessness housing. So we meet, we talk about some of the critical issues. What is the data? What is the situation? What are the possibilities? What are some of our organizations working on? And how do we cross paths in some of our journey to make sure that we are serving those most in need in Kitsap County? Some of the methods for housing folks who currently cannot afford homes that the group, the coordinating committee has talked about. We've talked about different formats and come down to the fact that something like boarding houses, which used to exist a lot, a shared building where each person has a private living space but shares common spaces, could be very, very affordable, and at one time that was a popular way for people to live. We believe that that can be recreated in a really good way here. A second method that we really like is tiny houses, because they are small, they are more affordable, and they can be constructed quite quickly. The second piece of the puzzle, though, is people also need to be able to begin to put their lives back together. Once they've got that shelter, it's easier for them to think through their future and how they can go about working on it and get this assistance that they might need. So the support services that we can offer, we have a lot of them in the community, but to offer counseling when they get to that point of maybe even some therapy, but certainly employment. We can help them get the training and the jobs that they may need if they don't already have. And not all homeless people are unemployed, but it's really hard to have what you call a regular life if you have no regular place to be able to live and set your own routine. Well, the question of volunteerism and how you can help is just as broad as the question itself. As I said, we have more than 50 organizations who do work on issues of homelessness in Kitsap County. Actually, Kitsap County has a human services department that that does work with many of them much of the time. So the Human Services Department in Kitsap County, Kirsten Jewell, who is our homelessness housing coordinator, would be a great contact if you wish to volunteer. Think a little bit about what you'd like to do if you'd like to work directly with the people who are living outside of shelter, or if there is some talent that you have about building shelter or providing human services, providing meals, etc. And if you know what you want to do, it makes it a lot easier for us to help find you a position. But we're all in this together. Every one of us has a role that we can play, no matter how small or how large, and so we welcome the assistance.
Hello, I'm Patty Lent, the mayor of the city of Bremerton. This is my 7th year, so I'm in my 2nd term of office. And since I've been here, we have been addressing homelessness. One of the things that we really wanted to make a major impact was our veteran homelessness. So 2 years ago, that's when I was one of the first mayors in the United States to sign on into a challenge of ending veteran homelessness. So our program hopefully will give an indication of how our public can get involved and the different agencies that actually work together to achieve our mission of ending homelessness. In my first term of office, Christine Gregoire was our governor, and she did do an outreach for all 39 counties and the 281 cities to see if they could look at ending homelessness or 50% of our homelessness within the next 5 years. So we formed an agency collectively. It was through Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council. And what we did is all the agencies, all the cities, and the county here in Kitsap put together a program, and it was a 12-year program, but how we were going to accomplish ending that, identifying who our homeless were and what their needs were going to be. And then the recession hit. During the recession between 2007 to 9 and 2012, we had a number of repossessed houses, we had foreclosures, we had businesses that went out of business, and it created a larger new homeless population. So we're today facing that expanded homelessness from what we originally started, and then we had lots of veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, and they fit into that homeless picture. So today we're faced with a larger population than we started out back in 2009. So the next steps for the community, including our 4 cities and the county, is to be available for our population. That's the residents as well as the homeless. I say that because we have a number, 211, and that number needs to be broadcast and put out into the public so that they know that that one call can bring all the different services available to light, as well as volunteerism. The shelters during the wintertime that are so desperately needed, we have 40 beds that are available at the Salvation Army from 7 p.m. at night until 7 a.m. in the morning. That same type of shelter is available at the Kitsap Rescue Mission, and they have 20 beds. We're just now working with the ARC. They feel that they can accommodate up to 50 as well. So as we do our outreach for different nonprofits that can be available for shelter, but these people need more than just a one-night shelter. They need that evaluation, and the volunteers that need to be in those shelters at night are where our population and our residents come in. We have a wonderful volunteer base. More than 1,200 work for the county. We have several hundred, at least 500 from our different faith-based populations, or I should say areas of the city that are willing to take and volunteer their time without pay in order to make a difference in the community.
I am really hopeful about the future, and yet it's so sad to think about the numbers of people who are homeless today and the reasons that there is no space. Basically, there just aren't enough places to live that are truly affordable. And the gap gets wider between the salaries or low salaries and even low rents. It's just a very, very difficult situation. So what we need to do is make sure that we have the kinds of homes available and the kinds of self-support systems. And I'm very hopeful because we have so many people in Kitsap County who care about one another, who care about our sense of community. As I said, we are all in this together.
I mean, what would happen if 1,000 people tomorrow called the mayor and said, I want to do something about homelessness. I want to help. I want to definitely make a difference in my town. So when I go home at night, I can think of what I've done that's good. What would happen? And it can happen if we care enough. To pick up that cell phone, and say, I want to make my city better. I want to make my county better. I want homeless children off the street. I don't want any homeless children sleeping in my car. What can I do to do that? And it'll happen. It's like a miracle.